Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Your Property Podcast. My name is Michelle Cairns, and with us today, we've got a special guest, Amandeep Thind. Hi, Amandeep. How's it going?
Hi, Michelle. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward. I'm excited to share some of my journey so that we can inspire, the people watching this.
Fantastic. Well, before we get into the conversation, let me just do a quick bio for people who don't know you already. So, Amandeep Thind, an enthusiastic and energetic and an empowering international speaker, best-selling author, and public speaking coach, inspiring people, both individuals and corporates, to achieve their goals and creating a progressive mindset. He is a passionate visionary who is a confident networker at all levels with excellent interpersonal and presentation skills. Amandeep creates transformation in people's lives by helping them to explore, expand, and evolve into their brilliance. So that is your bio, Amandeep. It's quite the bio there. Very an eclectic mix of the mindset and the skill base, which is, I think, so useful for the people listening today. And as I said just before we got on, our listeners are property investors. Many of them are successful and they've got their portfolio up and running and want to be even more successful. And then other people are, getting started. And I'm keen to, invite guests on who are not just talking about property and the, bricks and mortar and the deals, but also like bringing people who can help our audience with a skill set. And public speaking, talking with other people, whether that's one-to-one or one-to-many, is obviously a life skill that's useful in every situation. So let's get into it and tell me, a bit about yourself and what it is you do now and how you got into it.
Thank you. Journey of my life, begins with being the person where it's about being shy, introvert, and then, having situations where I was bullied and abused and discriminated. So I had this desire, like most people, that I want to be on stage, I want to be special, I want to be important to others. And that led me to research and, figure out the way to get there. As we were discussing, Tony, thank you, to Tony Robbins, that I was able to break through quite a few of my limitations when I did my first UPW in 2007. And since then, it has been a beautiful journey of learning, growing, and understanding that becoming a great communicator or a public speaker, whether it's one-to-one or whether it's one-to-many, which will bring immense, leverage in our life, it's a skill. It's not a talent. The only talent we need to have a vocal code, which most of us we are blessed with. And if we can, put our commitment, dedication, and accountability towards this skill, then we can articulate better. We can, enunciate, pronunciate, and make the communication more effective. So that's where, where I come in. Where 30 years of my life, I have been a person where I was there, but I was not there. And for the last 15 years, it has been a remarkable journey. I've been blessed that I can come into an environment like this and share my journey. So that's where it is right now for me. As you said, this is what I do. I teach people to become effective on stage.
When lots of, as you said, lots of people want that, want to give back. They want to be able to share their message and want to be able to confidently speak to other people. But I guess, why did it become a passion for you? Why did it become your life?
Just to give you a background, I grew up in a city called Calcutta, currently known as Kolkata. So if you know about Mother Teresa, she did a lot of great work in this city. So I grew up in the outskirts of Calcutta, and we used to live in a one-room house. My parents, and I have one sibling, elder sister. So living in a one-room house with illiterate parents, we had a lot of financial challenges. So most of the decisions were made by others who had the money. And then you wanted to actually say something, voice out something, but then probably thought, you don't have the power. So from that journey, where also, that I'm a mixed child. My father, is of a different origin. He's Northern Indian, very fair in complexion. My mom, she is Bengali from east of India. She's very dark in complexion. And being a mixed child from two different origin of religion and, community, I grew up with the understanding of people around me that there is something wrong with me as a human being, that I'm not pure enough, and maybe I can't make a difference to anybody's life, to my life, to my parents' life. So at the age of 16, I was suicidal. I was, contemplating to cut my nerve in the middle of the night when my family went to sleep. I was not successful, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But my world opened up to personal development through a company called Amway. I was looking for answers, and they somehow got my name and address. They invited me. I went to a meeting to this Amway meeting, and I saw this guy presenting, on stage with 200 people in the room. And whatever he did, he just like mesmerized and captivated me. I was like, oh God, what is this? Like, this is magic. The way he's, channelizing the entire audience, the way he's engaging them, the way we are feeling so special about being in this room. I think, what? I would like to learn this and do this one day, but I did not know how to do it. I thought maybe special ones can do it. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. Maybe, I'm an introvert person, or maybe my voice is not like that. And then I kept reading books and attended, quite a few different trainings. I got hold of Tony's book in 2003 when I was doing my graduation in the capital of India in New Delhi. And thanks to good karmas that I came to UK under a scholarship and went to Newcastle for my further studies, and then landed up on a marketing campaign, a free book, from Tony Robbins' office. Got a call, went there, and realized, what, that you can create magic if you have your voice, which you can use, from stage. I saw Tony made an offer on day 4 about his, 3 to 4 programs together, and he said even it was not him, it was one of his trainers who made the offer. And they said for the first 1,000 people who will take this offer right now, it'll be £9,999, which is like £10,000. I went to the back and I did some simple maths. I said, like, 1,000 people with £10,000, that's like £10 million got generated in just a matter of 4 days. And the best part of that, business was that people were like kind of fighting to get a form. People were sending him blessings. They were crying. And I said, what, maybe I can create this as well. And that led me to research, understand what it takes to be on stage. And here I am, done like, I think, close to 1,000 workshops in the last 14 years. I've trained at least a few hundred people to have their voice from stage, and they're all doing so well, when it comes to coaching, training, and speaking. I realized that public speaking doesn't matter what you do. You are in property investor, you are in some kind of drop shipping business, or whether you're a carpenter or you're in a supply chain kind of management business. If you know how to, be in front of people and voice out what you have to share, you will always have a leverage, because that's what, public speaking gives us, the multiplication of time, and it's a high income generating skill. So I think one of the best skills to acquire as a human being.
I agree. And in terms of, the communication as a skill and being able to, one of the benefits of being on stage and speaking to lots of people is you get to reach so many more people than obviously if you're just doing one-to-one. So did you have a message that you wanted to share, or is it just more around inspiring people through like your journey and your presence?
I think training did a lot of great things for me. And I think, I wanted to co-create that for people, who come from any kind of background where they have been, discriminated, bullied, or they have gone through pain and struggles, and they have questions, as to why my situation is like that, why I'm stuck, why I can't be on the next level of my journey, why I can't be amazing like other people, because we are all amazing. We were born with greatness inside us, but in the first 7, 8, 10 years of our life, it fizzles out. When we come out, we are lovely, bubbly, we don't take any notice of who is of what skin color, what language background. We just like that pure love, around everything happening around us. Is only after 8, 10, 11 years of our life, we start getting programmed. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to co-create that, as an experience for others, because I had so much of benefit from being a very shy, introvert, timid person to becoming, this amazing, confident person who people saw and came into me and said, "Oh, you're very mesmerizing and very captivating, Amandeep." And I thought to myself, "Oh yeah, that's something, people are sharing now." But that was not my situation many years back. And if I can do this because it's a skill which I acquired from the right people, anybody else can do it. So I took up a mission that if anybody wants to speak effectively from stage, they can do that. And again, any language is not a barrier. You can do public speaking in any language. I've been to Europe quite a few number of times, and I've seen speakers do their public speaking in the local language. And oh God, they're so effective. So again, public speaking is not dependent on any kind of language. any kind of like origin or height or voice texture. Anybody can do it if they want to make a difference in other people's life. And obviously it makes a difference in your life as well, because when you're out there in front of people, you got to have high standards. The way you eat, the way you discipline, the way you show up, there's so much of things about your life changes. And we have already mentioned this. I have as well. It's a leverage. It's a one-to-many strategy. It will give you so much of extra time, which otherwise you will be doing it one-to-one, and you will probably drain yourself out. So getting there and being in front of people is going to give you massive leverage. So yeah, I just want to co-create that experience for my students and mentees so that they can go through that experience.
And so obviously our listeners predominantly, they'll be using public speaking in networking meetings. So it's really popular. We've got networking meetings across the country, and even in person online as well, right? So, but let's use the in-person example where people have got to stand up in front of a room of 30 plus people, right? And as I'm talking to you now, I'm remembering back to the days where I had to do this. So, this is one thing you're told: go to the networking meetings and tell people what you do. And typically, you have the first speaker, then you have a quick fire round. Everyone gets 20 seconds to stand up and do the elevator pitch. They're 20 seconds, and then we go around the room and everyone does this. And I remember, I'd be driving on the way to this networking meeting, rehearsing this 20 seconds over and over again for probably like half an hour or an hour. And then I couldn't even listen to the first speaker because I had my notes and I was just like looking through what I was going to say. And then, you stand up and then you fumble through it and you think, oh no. And you just think, well, at least I've ticked that box of, going there and telling everybody about what I did. And for me, it turned into deals, it turned into investors. So looking back, I didn't need to be perfect, have the perfect presentation. I did need to just stand up and do it. And of course, with repetition, I got better and more confident and tweaked what I was saying so that, I got the outcome that I was looking for. But a lot of people are in that situation where they don't want to have to stand up and have all the eyes on them if it's if they're not kind of a natural in and they're not comfortable in that limelight. So what tips have you got for people who let's start with the people who just need to stand up and tell the audience who they are and what they do?
It's a very powerful, profound question. I've invested quite a few years of my life's journey on this particular topic. As you said, in the beginning of your journey, you'd be preparing, massively while even driving through. And if somebody's on stage, you would be in your mind, preparing when is your next. I remember when I was 17 and a half years old, I was like doing my A levels, equivalent A levels. I was invited, school was invited. They chose me and another, a girl to go and speak in this college. And I was supposed to speak on the topic of computer. It was a very upcoming topic in 97, 98. I remember going to the podium and I froze. Yeah, my teacher had to, rescue me. She came for me and she dragged me and took me behind. And I was very sad, like in that moment, because I thought my world has all come down. Obviously,
significant emotional event, right?
Yeah, because you froze and you like, what happened to me? I went blank because I prepared and I had the reference notes with me. I could have just looked at it, and just read it out worst case, but it just something happened. Like my brain completely went blank when I saw a different kind of crowd. And obviously, there were hecklers like, oh, come down, you can't do this, all that. It just became heavy on me. So from there to where I am, it's just all about learning the skill. And I realized when we go up on stage, there's a natural notion that you have to be a great performer. Now, as a magician, as a singer, as an actor, as a comedian, if you do that, 90% of what you do on stage is all about entertaining people. And yes, it can be, directly related to performance. But if you're going up on stage to share a message or to share about your business or how, somebody can benefit by being with you in that journey, a lot of it has nothing to do with performance. Because we are coaches, we are trainers, we are speakers, we are value adders to others' life. Yes, I would not disagree 10, 15, 20% of what you do, how you do, when you do it. You can say, oh, this was performance, Amandeep. Would you not say that? Well, I would say, yeah, 20% I'll take, 25% is performance. But the rest 75%, has never been performance and will never be performance. It's called, what I call, is a conversation. Now, I just tell people not to be mistaken that it's a chit chat, maybe, something I will have with my wife in the living room or with my mom on a FaceTime call. It is definitely a prepared, structured conversation, and a conversation which will add value to your listener's life. So you got to see, in those 20 seconds, what can you say, what can you do, what can you intend as a human being that you're able to add value to the people, 30 of those in front of you in that room. So I would highly recommend the first P, which I teach. I've got a 3P formula. The first P is don't perform. Just take it as a prepared, structured, value adding conversation. So when you come from that approach, I think your anxiety, your nervousness, your stage fear comes down at least by a 1 or 2%. And if you can build on it, like you said, as you kept building on it, and now you have no challenge, facing people. The same is with me. I kept building on it, and then my brain muscles got built up. Now don't have any problem. You can put me in an Australian stage. You can put me in a Vietnam stage. You can put me in front of people in Spain, and I can just flow. So that's what it is. I have built my muscle over a period of time by approaching this as a conversation rather than a performance. And the more we think about performance, the more anxiety kicks into us. This is, my recommendation. People who are listening, approach it as a value-adding conversation.
Okay. And, 20 seconds is such a short amount of time to convey any message. Is there, do you have is there something that people should just focus on more? Do you think more about like themselves and their journey, and encouraging people to build trust and get to know them? So more of a kind of personal approach, or is it kind of in a networking meeting, you just want to get in, say exactly how you can help people, and then get out? They don't really, they can get to know you later.
There could be two approaches, which I think, they're equally effective. The first approach we actually teach is called BRQ. It's like benefit revealing question. So if you can start with one benefit revealing question, you will, hook the listener's mind. And a question would take, I think, 3 to 4 seconds in totality. The rest of the, I think, 16, 15 seconds, you can talk about how that you can add value to their life. So, and when we ask question, we stay in charge of the conversation. If a question is thrown at us, we become much more present. So let's say there are 30 people, and most of them, they're preparing their brain about their pitch. You can always go like, how many of you here, you would like to get some flip deals in the next 3 months, as an example. Or it could be, how many of you here, you would like to get some below market value properties in if there's a particular area, let's say. And then boom, it'll hook up people to go like, yeah, I would like to have the below market value properties, or I would like to do some service accommodation. So they will listen. And then you can say, what? Hi, my name is Amandeep, and I'm an expert, or I'm an experienced, whatever that term is for you, that I've been doing this for a while. And if you would like to get more details, and if you would like to, understand how this can be done, come and see me in the break, or whatever that, situation is. And I would give you more details, because in 26 seconds, you cannot do, super magic. And the second approach would also help. It's called like storytelling. Again, you've got to keep something called a very crisp short stories. Stories can be done in 10, 20 seconds, and stories can be done in 10, 20 minutes as well. So you can quickly start like, going, when I came to London in 2006, I did not know how to, scale up my income. And then I got into service accommodation because I did not have money to buy my own properties. And that's exactly what I do for the last 10 years, is by taking people's property on rent and renting them to create profit. And that's it. You leave it there. You've given a great story. And I'm sure, there are people who will be like, okay, I am having challenges. I don't have the funds to do this. So how about, I go and speak to Michelle, or how about going to speak to Aman? Maybe, he can help me with this. So maybe a story approach would be a powerful, short one, 20 seconds, or a question, and then boom, what is that, the value you can add?
Yeah, I love it. Brilliant. So they're great tips for people, having like hook the question, having the story. And I think you're right, having a story. People aren't trying to remember a script. They're not trying to, like talk about something that's not themselves. If they can have a story about themselves that's relatable to other people as well, then again, that builds the trust and adds some kind of transparency. And if people have gone from, they started out here and then they end up there, that's inspiring too, right?
Yeah, it just helps us, the human to relate to the human, because storytelling is the oldest language known to mankind. When there was no keynote, there was no PPT 30 years back. even when we lived in jungles, like cavemen days of that conditioning is still in us. So the tribal leader would sit down in the evening and pass wisdoms to the next generation by storytelling. There was nothing to read and write. It's 150,000 years old language. And there's a Chinese saying, it says that if you can tell great stories, you can actually rule the world. So if you want to rule any kind of communication situation, you got to do storytelling, and it's a skill you can learn. It's a learnable skill.
I'm really curious about the storytelling because it's a theme that's come up time and time again through lots of different successful speakers and successful leaders. And it's something I've never personally looked at. My partner is great at storytelling, and every conversation we've got a metaphor and a story, and he's brilliant at coming up with them. I kind of struggle with putting a story together where I'm trying to convey a message or explain something. And so in terms of the skill around storytelling, like, how much time do you think someone needs to learn that? And I guess, once you understand the framework around it, then it's just about practice, right?
Yeah, it can obviously depend from person to person. I think if you give it, I cannot really pinpoint, but if you give it a good few hours, you can, get started. And then if you really want to go deep into this, you got to be in that, journey for a while, because, they say your brain is hardwired in a certain way. So if you want to actually, build a new circuit in your brain about storytelling or any skill, it will take a while. It can be a few months to a few years. But if you give it, I don't know, like say 20, 30, 40 hours in terms of learning storytelling, specifically, you can go from being an average or okay storyteller to at least a good storyteller, because becoming a good storyteller doesn't needs thousands of hours. It requires maybe 50, 60 hours of work over a period of a few weeks, and you will be there. Now, the journey from good to great obviously takes a good number of years and a good 1,000 hours of deep practice. So yeah,
I'm sure. Okay, so I can see you've got lots of books behind you there, and there's one in the top left there on my screen, which is about rejection and redirecting that rejection. As for many people, standing up on stage is, it brings about, as you say, lots of anxiety, lots of fear. And I had an experience recently where I went to a black tie dinner. So I was, there in my ball gown and relaxing, sitting there. And there was a magician on stage who, let's say, it probably wasn't the best magician I'd ever seen. And I felt a bit sorry for him. So I was enthusiastically clapping, which was my first mistake. The second one was probably making eye contact with him, right? Anyway, I got picked to go up on stage in front of everyone. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 people, all my peers in the industry, right, at this event. And I could see him walking over to me, and I can feel myself now, I can feel like, oh no, he's going to pick me. Don't pick me. Don't get me up on stage. This is like my worst nightmare. And I said yes. I went up, and afterwards I thought, why did I do that? Why did I get on stage? And it was a bit of fun, and there was the magic of this putting in like a signed card in a kiwi and hiding it and all that. But afterwards I thought, I didn't want to do it. Why did I do it? And it was I realized I either had to say no in front of all my peers, which was obviously worse to kind of say no and not be confident enough to get on stage, or get on stage, right, and do the show. So there's something there about the motivation to get up on stage and peer group and the rejection. And there's a lot in that story. I haven't really unpacked it, but I just thought it was an interesting one, because in other settings, I'm more comfortable, and I come from a background of teaching. So I spent 10 years teaching students French and Spanish. And, if you asked me to get up in front of, a class of students and teach them some French, like, no problem, right? But in the other situation, suddenly there's a lot of anxiety and apprehension around it. So how do the different situations feed into, being in the limelight, I suppose, because that's the first element of public speaking?
I think you very beautifully point out that that you are very comfortable, or let's say you're very confident in certain space where you maybe are familiar in a different style. It's like, we call it your room. Now, I did a 4 days training just a few days back, so it's my room. The audience has come for a specific focus reason, and they're much more motivated to go on their journey. So that you can push them to a whole different level. Now, if you get into an audience like where you were, right, it's like you don't know, because everybody's not familiar to you. Even let's say you know them a little bit, but not at that level. And it's somebody's stage, and then they're inviting you to be part of that. So there's a lot of uncertain moments into it.
Yeah.
What will he ask me to do? Probably he's gonna, I don't know, like put me in a box or cut me from
Yeah.
this. There's so many things happening in your brain. So that happens to pretty much, I think, everybody. So if you know about Tony, he's very particular about how he sets up his room in the entire world. He flies with a bunch of like certain number of people who knows what kind of music level he wants, what kind of water he would need, where would he like the display of the books and the whiteboard and this. So he creates an environment anywhere in the world which is like he's very familiar with, so that he can do a very similar kind of level of work. So coming back, some different rooms can create a little different kind of anxiety and pressure on us. The biggest thing I would do, or I would say, which has worked for me, is to keep reminding myself that I'm God's son, and I am in deep love for who I am, and everything is going to be okay. Like I don't have much practice of speaking in behind a podium. So when I did my book launch, I went up on stage. This is like not too long back. I'm still teaching public speaking. It's been just maybe like, let's say, 5 years before the pandemic. And quite a few book authors went, and probably they're used to the podium. I'm not used to the podium. I was feeling like, I'm blocked up. My body language communication is getting blocked up. My nonverbal, is not there effectively. And the bit they have, doesn't goes too far anywhere. It's just a little bit of peace in front of you. So I was kneeling in, I was doing my best, and it didn't go as per what I would think, it should go. I was kind of a bit hesitant as a speaker on that stage. I came up the stage and I saw this, another author come up, and he literally, moved it to many different places within that area he could. So I realized that if you're on a podium, this microphone is fixed, but it actually can move to some level, so you can actually bring it a bit closer than just kneeling in, because you sound a bit more desperate, as a nonverbal level of languaging. So coming back, to what you're sharing, some rooms can definitely, bring a different level of challenge and anxiety. Having said that, if we keep doing it, the muscles will build up. I have quite a few occasions when I was already doing speaking on mindset. I've spoken for Tony's program quite a number of times. And still, if I go into a different kind of environment situation, I probably have that nerve kick back in. And I think if the more we clock the stage time, the more we go into all these unfamiliar territories, uncertain, ways of getting up on stage, I think the muscle will be built up for us to be, if not like comfortable, but at least to that level, where most people would not realize. I'm sure for your case as well, most didn't realize what you went through. They thought, oh, you did a pretty great job.
Yeah.
And a lot of branding happened for you, because, when you're on stage, you became that limelight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could leave then because everyone had seen me. I was there. That was my, the outcome of the meeting was to make sure I was seen. So that ticked the box for me. And you mentioned there about working with Tony, and I mean, I've seen him in person many, many times, and seeing him on stage, lots of people I'm sure would say he's one of the best in the world at speaking and delivering and presenting and sharing his message. So I'm sure that you have, studied him and continue to study him, what he does, and you have the privilege of, being closer to him in real life and in different events, I guess. So, what have you learned from Tony that you've included in your own work?
I think with Tony, and I believe that other top trainers I have been around in the green room while inviting them to speak as a host or a MC, and or sharing the stage with some big names. What I personally believe and understand about these amazing people, I think they have found themselves in a way that they're comfortable being in their skin. I think they've gone past that stage, where they are doubting their existence and purpose, and in the way they are designed, whether it's their height or whether there's voice, whether it's their skin color, whether it's their background, whether, the kind of parenting they had, they have found meaning in everything which they've been through. And what I would like to call, this principle or a technique as self-love. They, I think, are madly, deeply in love for who they are. Maybe, in a way, a very empowering way, they're very obsessed about being who they are. And this could be one of the best qualities, one human being can inculcate in themselves, because it looks like for most people, including me in the past, we have a PhD in self-sabotaging. We can raise up two amazing kids, or we can run a business, and then, or maybe we did a master's degree, or there's so many things, we went through, like a domestic violence for 10 years and we came out of that relationship. We found, so many great answers. I mean, human beings, we go through a lot of pain and challenges to arrive to where we are. But for most people, we go like, what, it's not a big deal. And we just make the big deal become a small deal. I think these great speakers, including Tony, I believe, they are very much comfortable being who they are. So that's the first thing, I think I picked up from Tony and top trainers. And the second thing I would say, I think they have got high standards. Maybe I'm still decoding, some of it. It could be, from a like the hardships they went through, because most of these trainers and speakers, they didn't have, like the silver spoon. So they went through harsh times, and that build the character for them. Like, Tony says, harsh times, builds strong characters. So that's something, I want to, keep in my life alive, that if you're going through challenges and tough time, it actually is building your character. And that's what is amazing about Tony and top trainers, is that they've got high standards. And not just that the high standard is for others. They demand from their own self, and they demand it from the people around them. There are many such incidents, where I've seen in my normal world, I would say, like, this cannot be done. Like, excuse me, I mean, are you sure? Can we run a firework event with that number of people in this kind of, venue? There's so many of health and safety issues here. But then, he comes in and the team comes in, and, they have a whole different level of looking at things, and they get things done. And then you look back, you go like, oh God, that was like magic, maybe, how did they pull this together? It's again, what happens between the years makes a huge difference. So they have high standards. And when you surround ourselves, with high standard people, our standards goes up automatically. So those are two things, I would like to leave you with. And I think the one last thing I would like to share, which Tony talks about, turn your expectation into appreciation. So more we are grateful about the things in our life, the more magic unfolds. So yeah, gratitude, I think, is one of the blessings, I have figured out from Tony and some top amazing people. So those are the three things.
Amazing. Well, what a great episode we've had today. What a great chat, and super inspiring. Lots of tips, and it's great to have an insight in what you do, and working with other people as well. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the different ways how I can take it on board, and I hope everyone else is listening as well can take something on board for today and take that into their own journey in their own lives as well. So thank you so much for your time today. If you want to find out more about yourself, or the training that you do, where can they where's the best place to go?
They can just go to my website, which is my name, Amandeep Thind, and then .com. The details about our programs and the work we do is available on the website.
Fantastic. Well, Amandeep, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I'm sure you're a very busy man, and we really appreciate you taking time out to talk to our audience today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, Michelle. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, well, that's it for today, guys. For everyone else who is listening, who's not yet a member of the YPN Plus, click the link in the show notes to get your free 1-month trial, and we will see you next time. Take care for now. Bye-bye.